Resident Evil is back, and in classic fashion, Capcom aren't afraid to load it up with a ton of cool Easter eggs, references and nods to the past. Here's 21 brilliant little details we found so far in Resident Evil 3. Beware, this is going to contain spoilers, you have been warned. The game kicks off with a live action video, marking the first time they've done this since the original Resident Evil in 1996. Thankfully, the acting is a little better this time.
No! Don't go!
Jill's memorable gun, the Samurai Edge, once again returns in RE3, but is immediately lost in battle with Nemesis before you get the chance to use it. However, once you finish the game and gain access to the shop, you can buy the bespoke piece, admire the custom engravings, and have it ready in the item box for all your zombie decapitation needs. The opening of the game is set in Jill's apartment and is full of tons of little details and Easter eggs. Here are some of our favourites we've spotted so far. First, there's Jill's iconic beret from the original Resident Evil and it's resting on the shelf. There's also the famous stars picture on a pinboard, and you can spot a fridge magnet of a green herb. There's also a dog picture that looks exactly like the dog picture on her desk later seen in the STARS office. However, the plot thickens when what appears to be the picture of the exact same dog is on the missing board even later on in the hospital. And then it gets even more complicated when he's seen again under the sightings board. The simple answer is likely that Capcom is just reusing assets, but I prefer to imagine the complex subplot of Jill's pooch. Although a lot has changed from the original Resident Evil 3, one thing that stayed consistent is the early appearance of Dario Rosso in the Blue Mountain warehouse. After he's locked himself away, make sure you keep chatting to the rotund coward to hear him say,
"I'm not going anywhere! I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters! Now leave me alone!"
The exact line he used in the 1999 original.
"I'm not going anywhere! I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters! Now leave me alone!"
Long-term fans of the series will remember how awesome / ludicrous the true ending music was in the original Resident Evil 2. Well, it's back, and you don't have to make it to the end of the game to experience it. Simply take a breather in Moon's Donuts to enjoy it in all its 80s inspired rock glory. Amongst the many parody movie posters, there's actually a ton of references to Capcom games from the past. Here are all the ones we spotted. What looks like a Monster Hunter inspired video game from Kidsoft called Monster Shooter. Eagle's Pet Shop features the distinct image of Eagle, an obscure Street Fighter character. A little bit more on the nose is the Ghosts and Goblins inspired card game called Arthur. And finally, the most transparent is the game's depiction of Mega Man, who is frankly everywhere. He even shows up on the desk of Nathaniel Bard. Seems like RE3's evil doctor / dickhead is a massive fan. Who knew? In the original Resident Evil 3, you were often posed with the option of taking on Nemesis for rewards, or escaping while you can. Although the remake has removed live selections, you can still attempt to take on the giant freak for bonus items. Once downed, he'll drop a giant supply crate with all sorts of upgrades and goodies inside. Just don't ask where he's hiding that crate beforehand. When visiting Kendo's gun shop, you'll notice that things feel a little familiar. Turns out Kendo pulled the exact same move on Jill as he does Leon. Once your conversation with Kendo is over, you can also approach the door to hear some bonus zombie daughter dialogue.
"It's alright, Pumpkin. It's alright. That's a good girl."
Brad Vickers, just like in the 99 original, is outside RPD just before you enter and has a very useful STARS keycard on it. This time though, it's your job to take down the newly zombified Brad instead of Nemesis. In a cool nod to the live selection of the original, killing Brad is very much optional, and if it suits you, you can choose to save some ammo by ignoring him. In fact, Tyrell even encourages you to do this.
Leave him! Come on!
Carlos, feeling like a proxy for the audience, regularly likes to point out what you're thinking, and none of these feel more apt than when approaching a door locked with a spade emblem.
Now here's a weird f***ing door.
Finally, a game character that says what we're all thinking.
Alright, you want me to keep out? I'll keep out.
Another banger in the Carlos one-liner category is triggered when looking at the Welcome Leon sign in the West office. When aiming at the sign, Carlos simply drops in,
"Yeah. Welcome, Leon. Bet you had a kick-ass first day."
Once in the shower room, Carlos picks up a note that he probably should have left behind. From Wes to Hector is a simple but stern warning that he's dead and he's in the locker and not to open it. Unfortunately, Leon or Claire didn't get that note and they had to find out the hard way. In a cool little nod to the Resident Evil 2 remake, all lockers and safes actually have the same codes that they do in the 2019 classic, although this leads us on the mystery of who not only resupplied these locations, but who reset all these locks. For argument's sake, let's just say it was, I don't know, Marvin keeping himself busy. One mystery that is solved though is how there came to be a giant hole in the wall of the shower room. Turns out, Carlos was the demolition expert who caused Leon and Claire all the hassle. Mystery solved. Although, the mystery hole on the 3rd floor is never explained, so the plot thickens. In one last great touch in RPD, you now see the events that leave the poor, slumped, slack-jawed officer in the west hallway for you to discover in Resident Evil 2. You also see the corpse hanging in the unfortunate position that Claire or Leon can knock off with a simple tap. Carlos though can play with it all day, and that thing ain't budging for him. Making an adapted return to the series is the ability to dodge attacks when timed right. Turns out though that this is a very Jill specific move, and by performing the same actions with Carlos, you're treated to this absolutely lethal fist instead. During your exploration of the hospital, you'll notice that there's a small gap that Carlos won't even attempt to crawl through. When you're back playing as Jill though, make sure you backtrack to this location as she has the slender frame and more importantly, the confidence to crawl through. Doing this puts you in an area where you can find the game's super weapon, the Lightning Hawk. In an interesting little tidbit, you can actually find out some more information about the giant stalker Nemesis while exploring Nest 2, specifically his place of origin. Turns out Nemesis is actually European and was flown in from Charles de Gaulle Airport in France. Sure, I know what you're thinking, he could have come from anywhere in mainland Europe, but I'm sticking with him being French because A, it's my video, and B, it brings me great joy to imagine him saying, "Je m'appelle Nemesis." Also, interestingly in these notes, they also refer to the European branch of Umbrella, something that Claire and Chris Redfield go after in Resident Evil Code Veronica, and later on, they discuss the use of parasites instead of a virus, much like in Resident Evil 4. Maybe I'm clutching at straws, but here's me hoping that these are subtle hints towards the next 2 remakes. A Resi nerd can only dream. Although the title Alternative Ending is perhaps misleading, there is the option to play out the final events differently and watch how it would all go down. When Carlos prompts Jill to take a shot at Nikolai, if you either miss or refuse to fire, you'll be treated to a different cutscene where Nikolai takes both of them down with some deadly knife moves. Remember when I mentioned Jill's iconic beret earlier? Well, when you finish the game on standard or higher difficulty, you now unlock Jill's entire Resident Evil 1 ensemble to wear on your next playthrough. Now you can relive all the glory days, like that one time when she avoided becoming a sandwich.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
In Marvel movie fashion, Resident Evil 3 actually has an ambiguous post-credit scene with a mystery person picking up the vaccine vial that Nikolai destroyed. The first assumption would be that this figure is either Carlos or Nikolai, but that just feels a little obvious, and his arms are definitely not hairy enough to be Mr. Oliveira. With a little bit of detective work though, you can see the figure is wearing green, which in the past tends to be a signifier for the one and only Chris Redfield. How Chris could have got this vial before Raccoon City was completely flawed is a mystery, but you'll also see there's a punching bag in the background, and that definitely feels like a hint towards the legend who eventually gets absolutely stacked and starts punching boulders. And that's everything we spotted in Resident Evil 3, but we're sure there's more out there to find. Let us know what you find in the comments, and if you like that video, why not check out our official review or 21 brilliant little details we found in Resident Evil 2.